AGRA Vice President Jonathan Said, who was the eminent speaker at the gathering, stressed the need for a conducive environment for private sector investment, describing it as key to achieving Malawi 2063 goals. He noted that diversifying into soybean and groundnut value chains alone could drive economic growth and help bridge existing gaps. He, however, emphasized the need for better coordination among government development partners and private sector, noting that current investments are often fragmented.
We need to diversify in addition to maize and tobacco and look at other sectors like soybean and groundnuts that can address the gaps we have. And the simplest gap, the biggest gap is forex, right? So we're importing about $3.6 billion of goods and services into Malawi, and we're exporting only 1.8. So 50%, and that's why we keep having forex issues, lack of fuel at the petrol stations, etc. So soybean and groundnuts alone can address most of that gap if we help them meet the potential they have. There's others too that can help, horticulture and so on, but those two alone have the biggest potential to achieve it. They don't need a lot of investment by government in terms of money, but they do need investment by government in terms of time and attention so that the issues that are holding back private investment in those value chains are addressed.
AGRA Malawi Country Director Elufe Nyirenda said Malawi is underproducing soybean despite high demand. She noted that while the country produces about 200,000 metric tons, processing capacity stands at 800,000 metric tons. Nyirenda called for policy alignment and a more enabling business environment to unlock production and tap into regional and global markets.
We are focusing on how we can coordinate our efforts, making sure that the development partners are investing in soybean and groundnut value chains, which can help us to change our narrative, but also increase our exports. But more importantly, also seeing the role that government can play to ensure that we are coordinating our efforts. It's making the business environment conducive for the private sector to invest, and also ensuring that government itself is also speaking to the needs of the private sector. So once we address those bottlenecks, we should be able to see a movement from the current scenario where we are producing 200,000 metric tons of soybean to 800,000 of metric tons of soybean.
Mwapata Institute Board Chairperson Richard Nkandawile urged government to ensure strong coordination and consistency in implementing agricultural priorities.
This required, of course, the total commitment of the government, absolutely critical. But also, ensuring also that the international community begins to, support those efforts around coordination, because sometimes it's the international community that also begins to speak at cross purposes with the government priorities. So at that level, we need to make sure that the priorities defined by governments.
The event was organized by Mwapata Institute in partnership with AGRA, the National Planning Commission, and Luana.